I will welcome our next presenter, which is Bartholomew and Sonko and John Mark Salunya to talk about Mowali. So I'll pass it over to both of you.
Okay, thanks to all. Okay, my name is Bartholomew Sonko, of Mowali. I will present with John Mark, senior management manager architect from for FinTech, and also Pierre from Orange. Okay, very quickly, just to quick remind of Mowali, general presentation. Mowali is a joint venture founded by Orange and MTN since 2018. Okay, but the main target is to set up the interoperability for mobile money services. And we have defined a scheme based on Moja Loop and used some business rules, okay, in terms of participant agreement, business process compliance requirements, some technical standard based on Moja Loop with three main parts: parties, code, and transfer, with all the full security layer of Moja Loop. Okay, and also the last part, but not least, which is related to settlement. And our priority had been to launch, to have a commercial launch. We already did it during this year, okay, and we consider to as next step to work on different part related to e-commerce, forex, merchant payment, and bulk payment. Okay, about Mowali update, I give you some key facts. Okay, as previously said, Mowali had been set up in 2018 in Abidjan, and now we have roughly 21 people with 17 permanent staff at Mowali headquarters. We have some many technical assets, okay, with many platforms based on and each platform is dedicated for a certain usage, okay, development, UAT, staging, and production. Okay, we already did the feud for 2 corridor scenario, local currency, okay, and local currency cross-border. But this FUT, we stuck because we got some central bank veto, okay, and we expanded with a new corridor scenario, which is a cross-border cross-currency. Very complex scenario, but very interesting, and we achieved it, and we did commercial launch since 20 of May 2020, which concern the corridor between France and Morocco. We expected to have a certain amount of revenue for this corridor, but as we just launched the mobile money in Morocco, okay, we seen that we have some delay before to have massive revenue. We are hoping. The partner bank for settlement is Citibank, okay, but we are very flexible in order to set up a specific settlement model for each corridor if required. Because Citibank is not present for all market we can consider. Concerning our roadmap, we have a cross-currency transaction okay, already launched, and we will plan to launch very soon some few corridor in intra East Africa. Okay, we are we are close to finish this new corridor, and to also to add some additional corridor between Europe and Africa in terms of inbound transfer. About DFSP onboarding, which is a key part of Mowali experiences, we quite finished the transition, and now we are able to handle the most important parts, okay, of DFSP onboarding from with Mowali staff. The big challenge will concern the ability to set up a QA capability and set up business intelligence tool. The BI is very important because Mowali is generating some reports, okay, and need to build the DFSP, okay, and we need a very strong and resilient system which allow to deliver the bills and to give a very good level of reporting, which is a business expectation. Enhance flexibility on forex rate and settlement management. We already did it in parts, okay? Means to have the ability to manage the forex rate by transaction instead of settlement windows. The GDPR tooling is also a big challenge through data protection tool. Okay, we have a stream with Mojaloop and with the security team of Mowali to set up this GDPR tooling. I can say that Mowali is ready and open to collaborate with other schemes in Africa, even if it will require some Mowali architecture evolution for that. About our next challenge, okay. John Mark, do you have any point to add about update?
No, I think Beth has given the story. Maybe just to again restate it for those that are new to the convening, who may be hearing about Mowali for the first time. We've been, as Beth has put it, Mowali has been in the works since 2018. It's in 2018 when MTN and Orange had this vision of an Africa switch that they initiated what we currently call Mowali. Now, since then, what we went through in the initial stages was first to look on the market to figure out what were the available technology options that would support our vision for an Africa switch. So at that time, we did assessment of different options of what could be a switch, and then we landed up on a choice of using Mojaloop. So that's when we start the journey of working with Mojaloop. We worked with different teams in the Mojaloop Foundation, and then the Mothersbox team and several others on the initial stages of Mowali from 2018 to the current day, when we do have Mowali live. Technically, we should say that Mowali is live in about 10 markets, technically. But commercially, like Beth has put it, when we did the first market, which was the same currency in the Weka region, that was Guinea-Bissau, Benin, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, we technically got ready there and were live, but we couldn't pass the regulator kind of no objection. That's what Beth has put as the no veto. Now, following that, we changed a little bit of the strategy, and then we're like, let's first focus on the cross-border cross-currents, which is Forex. And the teams have been working deeply from Wari's end from the open source. Every time we've come to the convening, we've been presenting our kind of priority, and Forex has been part of this for the last 2 or 3 convenings, because we changed strategy to be like, let's first focus more on the cross-border, cross-currents, where we can bring in money from corridors like in Europe, corridors like outside the WECA region. So fast forward, we also, as put here, we're also looking at the East Africa region. I think we would talk about it more in the next slide, whereby we think it may be more accepting from a regulatory standpoint of view. It may be more accepting of inter-country transfers via Mowali. But we do believe along the way, over time, even the hurdles that we did get from a regulation perspective, I think we shall be able to pass them. It's just a question of time. And then we shall realize the vision of the African switch. Back to you, Beth.
Okay, thanks a lot, John Mark. Okay, so we can consider the next challenge. We have Pierre. Hello, Pierre.
Hi, everybody.
Yes.
Pleased to be online with you again.
Okay.
Would be better to see you for good, but okay, online will do. So thanks, Bart, for giving me the floor here. So I tried to summarize here the next steps that we'll have to deal with. I didn't include the how should I put it? The new product features, such as possible AML additional tools or things like that. It's, or merchant payments, or these are separate items that we'll have to put in on which we'll need to put dates in our roadmap. But I just summarize here on the next things we have to do, right? So we try to separate this in 3 parts. On the business front, actually we do have about 10 operators onboarded, or in finalizing, tests in production. And actually, technically or commercially, there's only 1 corridor live yet, right? So it's really time to activate all these possibilities here, and that would be our focus in the next weeks, just to make sure all these get activated. And what does that take? There's of course some effort on the DFSP side, because they need to launch commercially their stuff, but also finalize all the details related to authorizations of such or such DFSP here and there. So there's always a lot of the side of the technical connection and even the contractual agreement, etc. There are so many, not details, because they're not details, so many things to get done before you can really get started. And sometimes you end up, you've done everything, but these little between quotes things are still pending, and they can last, because authorizations take time, account openings take time, etc. So we want to, push that too. It may not be as exciting as onboard the noble technical onboarding itself, but it has to be done. So we'll be focusing on that, and of course at the same time we'll keep onboarding. There's still got a few Orange and MTN affiliates to onboard, and we want to accelerate that, because we've learned now. I think when it comes to these platforms, Orange and MTN, I'm pretty confident that the other onboardings will be way faster, because we're a bit more drilled now, and of course BizDev is going to be key in the next months to it's time also to turn to other guys, not just Orange and MTN. Since the beginning, the raison d'etre of Mowali was to onboard other operators or MTOs, etc. So I can't disclose anything here, but that's beefing up our business is key now that we are ready, because now the platform is really set for, you can add as many corridors as you like. It works. So that's for the business side of things. On product and service, of course we're launching now. We're adding the few. We're about to launch the next 2 or 3 corridors after the first one. Obviously, there's still a few things to tweak, even in the current functional scope. There are obviously a few things to tweak on the product side. Here we need the Mojiloop's help here. I mentioned it before. I think we mentioned it last time, and it hasn't changed. Edge case management, especially when it comes to synchronizing the management of timeouts or non-responses or etc. on both legs of an international transactions. We've made progress, obviously. We had to, but I think the whole thing can become healthier than it is today. We need to handle these transactions end to end, not just like 2 half legs, the switch being completely dumb with respect to the fact that these are 2 legs of one customer transaction. I know that it's in the pipe, that you guys are working on it. I just want to pass the message that we're looking forward to the results here, because we really need that in the midterm to have a healthier basis on which we can our business ops can sleep better. Let's put it that way. It's manageable as is, but frankly, it can and must be improved. The second area is, but that's normal business ops or finance ops, depending on how you call them. So the guys who monitor transactions, manage settlements, manage reconciliation, etc. We can't say that they have a Rolls Royce right now, right? Warren knows my thought about the portal that we have today, which is I don't know, trying to find not too hard a word, but it's not good. Let's put it this way. We are working separately because it's obviously a different world and different tool. The way to automate or improve our interface with the settlement bank or settlement banks. So that's all the post-processing of data to figure out. Okay, we know that this operator owes this to this operator, but so to settle that, what do we do? Which payment orders has to be passed where, which format, which forex orders, all that kind of the pipe here, the mechanics of getting things done in the background. Nothing rocket science here, but you just need to get it done if you want your business ops to work efficiently on a daily basis, especially since Mowali settles very often. So we need to make sure that this works smoothly. It's more work that you could think of than you could think. At the beginning. Because there are so many little parameters here and there that you need to make consistent with each other. Rate time changes, window closure, all that. Where you perform forex, in which country. So all of this, you need to manage it in a way that is as automated as possible and as trackable, traceable as possible as well, to make sure that you can reconcile all the different steps without difficulty. So again, no rocket science here, but just a little bit of careful and gradual improvement work. And as always, I would say we need to support new settlement configurations. We're going to onboard specific partners who have specific settlement schemes. We're going to play with different guys. And definitely this impacts, I said product and service, but obviously it's also the processes. So we need here to be really good at working in a flexible way, yet scalable. And that's a very interesting area. And that is well worth looking into, because there are so many different ways of doing things. Not only about the way we settle, but do we settle or does someone else settle? And in that case, what do we do? What's the interface between us, etc. So that's a very important area for us if we want to be able to capture all the opportunities that will come across. On the tech ops side, so please, Bart and John Mark, on this one, keep me honest. So tech ops always needs progressing. Some of the testing or some of the learnings for the platform are just happen live. That's part of the game. We're still learning there. It's not all pre-tested. So there will be some more performance and resilience testing needed. There's been some, but it will keep deepening. I should have added security as well. This one never stops. It's not a project security. It's really a process. It never ever stops. So obviously this will continue, and in the early stages it will lead to improvements and changes. Another area is optimizing infrastructure costs. As you practice, you figure out, you realize where you can, oh, maybe I don't need that, or I should do it differently, to minimize the cloud infrastructure costs that you have, by tailoring a little bit the each environment that you're using, being able to build one up and then tear it down, that kind of thing. So that's ongoing. Again, it's not a one-shot thing. I think it will continue over time, but we have right now identified a few things that we can do on that front. Obviously, as we add the number of live DFSPs, we're going to put some tension on the support process, which is good, because until you've put some tension there, you can't really say you're completely sure it's cast iron, right? So that's going to be an intense drill period for these guys. But I trust that we're ready for that. And then the last one, but by no means the least, is what I call the changes in prod processes, or the change in prod processes. Two very different processes here, but that raise similar challenges somehow. Is onboarding a new DFSP, a brand new DFSP, when others are already live. So at one point you're going to allow these guys to switch to production, and you're going to put to push the switch button for these guys, and at this point you have a responsibility towards other DFSPs that you haven't left anything through the cracks that could cause this DFSP to add some perturbation, or can't find the proper word here, to the others, to the other DFSP. So that's always a little bit of a tense moment when you do this, and you want to make sure that you've done everything you could do to make it smooth. And another one is completely different, but also a bit stressful, is when we deploy another Mowali release in production. It sounds obvious, but when you are at the center of a network, when you push the switch button, and that these guys are going to use the new the new version that you want to be sure they won't have problems. So we've done this a couple of times already. We're not completely in terra incognita, but I know that this is an area where we want to make sure that we can do it in a more relaxed way and hopefully a cheaper way as well, because today it requires quite a lot of resource to be sure that we're all right. So that's the main points we have. I forgot to mention when I told about new settlement configurations. Obviously, the work that is being done by the group on settlement is still very, very important to us, because it will simplify our life. So still looking forward to seeing these into production. So so that's it for now. If you have any questions.
Pierre, this is Miller. I wanted to make a brief point here that maybe get your feedback on. We have involved Microsoft in helping us think about how Mojaloop could best be, and their recommendations for hosted on Azure. And as we know, you're using Azure as your cloud service provider at present. And your team, I believe, has been involved in the discussions with Microsoft about some of their recommendations and your needs for and your use of Azure in supporting the Mowali system. And since at its core, it utilizes the Mojaloop system, and we want to be supportive, it would be very helpful if we had some feedback on those recommendations from the Mowali team, were you to have the ability to try some of those during your optimizing of infrastructure costs, your perf and resiliency testing. I think that was really the structure of this. Can you give us an update a little bit on how that's going and your ability to participate in preparing the Mojaloop community report on how to host?
So you said Pierre, but I think this one is more for Bart, right?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I did say Pierre. I'm sorry, I meant Bart.
So Mila,
you can comment, Bart?
Yes, please go on, John.
Yeah. Mila, before Bart comes in, yes, the engagement with Microsoft has been held. Now, we find ourselves in a situation whereby, as Mowali particularly, this is just a Mowali situation. We have over the last 2 months been moving infrastructure, in a process of moving infrastructure between what they call a cloud service provider. It's more like a reseller to another reseller, still in Azure. Now that has taken quite a lot of time in engagement with Microsoft, and we've in that process not done so much changes on the infrastructure as has been. But I do believe once we stabilize our setup with a new reseller, then we can be able to change our setup with less restrictions. But Abath will comment more on this.
Yes, I fully agree. I confirm. Our priority is to move the subscription in Côte d'Ivoire, but still in Azure. And after we'll have the capacity to enhance the current configuration and to optimize the infrastructure.
So Mila, let's say by the next convening, or of course earlier, once we've stabilized our house in how it's providing our cloud service, then we shall be able to share insights on what we are revamping based on Microsoft recommendations.
That's excellent. Thank you guys very much. And of course, we are very much appreciative of your contributions, which have been significant to the core program. And I think given that you're really running a production system now on Azure, the ability to instruct us on what your learnings and best practices for running Mojaloop on Azure is really very important. As we think about then publication of the recommendations in a white paper format, it sounds like your ability to input to that would be improved once you get through this transition. One thing that you're mentioning, though, that I think could be quite helpful and may have to come later would be a reflection on where the service provider, I guess you're calling them the reseller, has influenced the infrastructure choices that you've had to make, where Azure isn't always Azure. That is, it's different in how it's presented by the reseller, and that there may be some challenges in how you configure the system depending on which resellers you choose. And I don't mean so specifically in the ones that you chose by name, but in where what are the choices that someone who's deploying should be aware of when they select a reseller, and how that would influence some of the choices they make. Some of that would be really excellent to have, I think, as input to this. And I think your timing is good. I think if over the next program increment, we hope to collect some of the material we've already generated into a draft form that we can then have folks reflect on in the community, and look for things that should be included, those things that perhaps we got wrong, and other areas where we could be improving that. But the idea is to publish this as guidance for anybody who chooses to use Azure as their hosting environment. As the community will know, we use AWS for the development infrastructure. And so we already then have a set of best practices there. And Kim Walters has been working with Amazon in much the way that Mowali and company have been working with Microsoft to get to that level of what would be the best practices for using Amazon. So hopefully that's two. And of course, we also have some work you're going to hear about later this week about how you can go about hosting Mojaloop on the Google application platform. In fact, I think there was a session early this morning, perhaps even before I got up. It would have been quite early my time. But hopefully with that collection of guidance, then this will help other people become more sensitized to your needs, to all of you folks at Mowali. And so we can be more helpful in understanding the kinds of choices and trade-offs that you're making as we think about both the design of the system, but also in how it's being reflected in your use on Azure.
Okay.
That's noted, Mile. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Then I think if there are no other questions, thanks so much. I saw a couple of questions, but John Marks answered them in the chat. I appreciate you guys doing that. And thank you, Bart and John Mark and Pierre for joining the session.